The Galactic Council was the oldest and most powerful organization in the universe. Dozens of starfaring species sat in its grand halls, some with wings, some with claws, some glowing like light, others covered in stone-like skin. They had seen thousands of civilizations rise and fall. They had shaped laws that ruled across galaxies. They believed they had seen everything until Earth spoke. The first time humans sent a message to the Galactic Council. It was received with laughter. A representative of the Krivri Empire, tall and thin, with eyes like polished mirrors, leaned forward in his seat and sneered. "Are these the wild ones from Sector 92 Blue?" he asked. "The ones who fight each other over food and water?" Another alien delegate, a creature made of soft jelly and long tendrils, chimed in, its voice wobbling like liquid. "Yes, I saw their broadcasts. They throw rocks at each other, yes. And use fire sticks? Hilarious." The chamber echoed with deep, alien laughter, some loud, some like whispers, some sounding like metal scraping against glass. The humans were not present in person. Their request to join the council had only come through a formal message, translated and submitted through standard channels. No one took it seriously. To most council members, Earth was a Joka primitive world that should have been classified as a developing death world. Dangerous, messy, and irrelevant. But one being in the chamber did not laugh. A small, old creature sat in the shadowed corner of the council chamber. It was one of the few remaining from the pre-silence era, a time so ancient that even the oldest races did not speak of it. Its name was Luroth, and its body was covered in scales as dark as space itself. It had lived too long. It had seen things others had forgotten, or had chosen to forget as the laughter continued. Luroth slowly turned its gaze toward the center of the chamber where a holoscreen displayed Earth's rotating image. "They should not be mocked," Luroth whispered. No one heard him. Or perhaps they ignored him. 3 solar weeks later, Earth sent another message. This time, they requested to send a representative to the council in person, again. The council laughed, but for reasons no one understood, the request was granted. A single human ship, small and slow by galactic standards, arrived at the outer station. It was scanned thoroughly. Its weapons were weak. Its tech was decades behind. And yet, when the hatch opened, silence fell. She stepped out slowly. A woman in a dark gray suit, human, unarmed, average height. Her eyes scanned the station calmly. Her name was Helena Rowe, a linguist and cultural historian. Earth had not sent a soldier. They had not sent a general. They had sent her. She carried a small metal cube in her hands. No buttons, no screens, no seams, just smooth black metal with a single strange symbol etched into one side. A symbol that none of the council's AI databases could identify. Helena was escorted through long, glowing corridors. The guards looked at her with amusement. Some with boredom, some with thinly hidden disgust.
How?
But she said nothing. She walked quietly, holding the cube close. When she entered the main chamber of the Galactic Council, she was met with more than 100 different species. Some hovered, some sat in large pools, some remained behind energy fields. All looked at her with curiosity and judgment. The High Speaker of the Council, a creature of pure energy shaped like a tall flame, spoke first. "You are a representative of Terra 92, known as Earth." "I am," Helena said calmly. "You are welcome to speak, though we advise briefness. Your species is not yet of proper standing." Helena nodded. "We understand. I have not come to argue or boast, only to listen and to offer a message." "A message?" the High Speaker asked. "Yes." Helena raised the cube. "This device carries an ancient language. It was found in our southern polar region, deep beneath ice. Older than any known human civilization. We believe it may be connected to something larger." The cube began to hum softly. A light shimmered across its surface. The laughter returned. One of the delegates, A large creature with 6 arms and horns like tree branches let out a roaring laugh. "You come here? Carrying a toy? Your planet has nothing," shouted another. "No star forges, no quantum lanes. You still burn dead plants. To move your ships." Another voice yelled, "What do you know of history? Of language? You are infants?" Helena said nothing. She simply looked down at the cube, as if waiting. Then a voice from the shadows cut through the chamber. "Stop laughing." It was Luroth. Every being in the chamber turned. Luroth slowly stood. His bones creaked. His eyes, black as void, stared at Helena not with hate, but fear. "What symbol is that?" he asked quietly. Helena turned the cube, revealing the marking, a spiral of 3 lines. With a circle in the center, Luroth stumbled back. "No," he whispered. "It cannot be. It was sealed. It was forgotten." "What was?" asked the high speaker, confused. Luroth's voice trembled. The room fell dead silent. Helena looked around slowly. "The voice?" she asked. Luroth's claws shook. "You do not know what you carry? That mark, it belongs to a force older than the Council, older than the stars you know. A racer, perhaps. Not a race at all who did not use weapons. They used words. Their language," Luroth continued, "was not just sound, it was power. When they spoke, planets cracked, stars dimmed, empires ended, and then one day, they vanished, or so we believed." Helena's voice was soft. "We found ruins with this symbol beneath our ice. It's not built by humans, buried for millennia. We tried to understand it. But every time we translated even a fragment, strange things happened. People heard voices. Machines behaved oddly. Some lost time. We stopped trying. That was wise," Luroth said. "The voice must not return." Helena stared at him, then said quietly, "But what if they never left?" The cube pulsed once. Deep sound echoed across the chamber low, like thunder beneath the sea. All lights flickered. Half the AI systems crashed instantly. A few delegates screamed. Helena looked up. Her eyes were calm, but her voice was different now, slightly deeper, touched by something ancient. "We came here in peace. But if you mock us again, you may wake things that even your gods once feared." Then she turned and walked out. No one stopped her. Behind her, Luroth sat down slowly. He knew what this meant. He had feared this day for eons. The voice had begun to speak again, and it had chosen Earth. They called it a myth, a forgotten tale from the dark corners of history. Some claimed it was only legend. Others, who were older and wiser, never spoke of it at all. But across the galaxy, in hidden temples and ancient archives, one name still survived, whispered by trembling voices. It's written only in forbidden tongues. The voice? Most species today had no memory of it. Millions of years had passed. Civilizations had risen, fallen, and turned to dust. But in the deep, quiet places of the universe, the stories were still there, broken, scattered, and dangerous. Helena Rowe returned to Earth under full protection. She said little. Scientists and military leaders met her at the landing pad, asking questions, demanding answers. She gave them none. She simply said, "Seal the Antarctica site. No one goes in, not until we know what we're dealing with." But it was already too late. Far away from Earth, on a red moon orbiting a dying star, a creature opened its eyes after 10,000 years of sleep. It was not alive in the way humans understood life. It was memory given shape, built from light and metal. It had one task: detect the return of the forbidden sound. It had heard the cube. Its eyes glowed gold. One word echoed inside its metal skull: awakened. Back on Earth, something strange began to happen. In every corner of the planet, sensitive machines began picking up strange radio patterns, low hums, pulses of energy, tiny flickers of sound beneath normal frequencies. Scientists at first thought it was interference. Then the pulses formed a pattern. They were speaking, but in no known language, at the United Nations Galactic Research Center in Geneva. Teams of linguists and cryptologists worked day and night too. Study the recordings. The AI models failed again and again. Some even broke permanently, their code becoming corrupted after analyzing only seconds of the strange voice. That's when Helena finally spoke. She stood in front of a room full of generals, scientists, and diplomats. Her face was pale. Her hands shook. "This language," she said quietly, "is not communication. It is structure. It rewrites things. It doesn't describe reality, it changes it." They didn't understand, so she gave an example. She played a 5-second clip of the cube's recorded hum to a glass of water. The sound was soft, almost musical. The water turned solid, not frozen. Solid like black crystal. Gasps filled the room. Some shouted, demanded to know what it meant. Helena simply said, "It means we are dealing with a force that doesn't belong in this galaxy, maybe not even in this universe." Meanwhile, deep in the archives of the Zelari Empire species, known for memory and knowledge, an elder priest was reading through forbidden scrolls sealed since before their star system had formed. The scroll told of a race known only as the Voice. They never built starships. They never colonized. They never fought wars. They spoke, and when they did, stars dimmed. According to the scroll, the Voice spoke the original structure of the universe. They didn't learn language, they created it. Were not conquerors. They were reminders. They appeared when species reached too far. When pride rose above balance, they would whisper a single phrase, and entire empires would forget themselves. Civilizations would vanish. Records would crumble. No weapon could touch them, because no weapon could understand them. The scroll ended with a warning. If ever the forgotten sound rises again, do not answer it. Do not mock it. For the Voice does not speak twice. The Zelari priest sealed the scroll again. Then, without a word, activated the ancient beacon. A message was sent through deep space. The Voice returns. It speaks through Earth. Back on Earth, Helena was having dreams. Strange ones. In them, she floated in the stars, surrounded by massive black shapes, shapes too big to understand. They were not ships. They were not creatures. They were presences. They spoke to her, not with words, not with thought. They just existed. And she felt them. One of them moved closer. She couldn't see it, not really, but she felt its voice, like thunder behind time. "You carry the key. You wait. In your silence, when mocked, we return." She woke up screaming. Her hands were glowing, and the cube was floating in the air, in orbit around Earth. Unknown signals began to up her coded pulses that matched no known pattern. Military satellites picked up strange shifts in gravity around Antarctica. Birds began avoiding the skies above the South Pole. Whales refused to sing near the southern oceans. A team of special operatives, against Helena's warnings, entered the buried chamber beneath the ice. Only one came back. He was blind. His skin was cracked like stone. His voice was hollow. All he said was, "They are not sleeping. They are listening." Then he died. His blood turned into black sand across the galaxy. The council was in panic. The Ezerith, one of the oldest known species, suddenly sealed their borders and destroyed every file they had on ancient galactic history. The Valtari, a warrior race with more than 5,000 battle fleets, sent a private envoy to Earth, not to threaten, but to kneel. Their leader, a towering creature of metal and bone, came alone and stood in front of Helena. Without speaking, he drew a symbol in the air, the same spiral that was on the cube. Then he said, "We remember. Forgive us." Helena stared at him, confused. "Why are you here?" he replied. "Because the last time they spoke, we survived. Only by silence." He gave her a scroll. It was made of living skin, stitched with glowing thread. She unrolled it. The writing on it was made of symbols that pulsed and shimmered, as if alive. And then she heard it. The voice, not from outside, but inside her mind. "We are memory. We are pattern. We do not forget." Helena fell to her knees. Her nose bled. Her skin cracked. The cube floated again. A ring of black light pulsed from it, spreading across the room. Everything electronic in the building died. Time itself stuttered. For a full 3 seconds, the world stopped. When it restarted, the building's clocks were all 3 minutes behind. Everyone in the room aged 1 year. Helena stood slowly. She was different now. Her eyes no longer blinked, and her voice, when she spoke, was layered like many people speaking in unison. She said, "The voice remembers the mocking," and then she smiled. In the stars, something moved. It was not a ship. It was not alive. It was old, and it was listening. The galaxy had forgotten the voice, but the voice had never forgotten the galaxy, and now humanity was speaking again. Antarctica was never truly silent. Winds howled endlessly. Ice cracked under its own weight. The ground moaned as ancient glaciers shifted slowly across the land. But now, something had changed. The scientists at Base Orion noticed it first. Located deep within the ice desert, hidden beneath layers of snow and rock, the research base had one job: monitor seismic activity near the buried ruins humans had found only a year ago. At first, the signs were small, slight tremors, tiny shifts, power flickers. But then came the sound. It wasn't a loud sound. It wasn't something you could hear with your ears. It came through the machine's ultra-low hum, steady and deep. It vibrated through steel walls, shook the snow around the base, and made some people's teeth ache. It was felt more than heard. At first, staff believed it was some kind of geological event. But after 3 days, the frequency of the hum formed a rhythm. It wasn't nature. It was a signal. Inside the command room, a young technician named Arjun leaned forward, staring at the data. "Sir, this is a language." Superior, Dr. Lyra Mendez, looked over his shoulder. "How do you know? It's not random." The pulse patterns repeat every 22 minutes. Same sequence. Then it changes, like it's waiting for something. Like it's calling. Calling what? No one knew. But thousands of kilometers below their feet, buried under layers of frozen stone, something heard the call, and it was answering, far above Earth. Space stations and defense satellites began detecting gravitational distortions centered around the Antarctic ice cap. Invisible waves rippled out from the South Pole like signals across water. The waves weren't dangerous yet, but they broke communication systems across 5 continents. AI cores began glitching. Time-sensitive machines lost sync. Then came the visual. One satellite captured something impossible. Under the thick ice sheet, a structure moved. Not ice, not rock. Metal perfect in shape. Circular, the size of a mountain. And it wasn't just sitting there. It was opening. Helena. Ro had returned to the southern continent. She arrived with 2 guards and a scientist named Dr. Ishan Malik, one of Earth's top theoretical physicists. They flew directly over the buried ruins in a stealth ship. Staring down through layered scans of the ice, Dr. Malik whispered, "It's a machine." Helena nodded slowly. Her voice was quiet and layered now, touched by something ancient. "It's more than that. It's a gate." He looked at her. "A gate to what?" She said nothing. The ship landed on a ridge not far from the entrance. To the ancient site, the same one where the first human expedition had gone silent. Snow blew around them, thick and fast, but the air buzzed. Energy shimmered over the ice, like heat waves as they stepped out. The ground under their feet rumbled. Then it happened. A breath. The entire frozen field exhaled. Air whooshed up from cracks in the ground. Warm, not freezing. Warm air from deep below. The ice cracked like glass. A circular hole began to open. Slowly, mechanically, a perfect ring. Dr. Malik stared. "That's not human technology," Helena said, stepping forward. "It's not even alien as we understand it. It's something else. Something before." Inside the opening was a stairway, spiraling downward, carved into stone, lit by a strange, white light with no source. They descended. The deeper they went, the warmer it became. The walls around them were smooth and black, like obsidian, but pulsing, slightly like a heartbeat. We walked for what felt like hours. No talking. Just the hum of energy, finally. They reached a chamber. Vast. Silent in the center was a platform. And on it, figured it looked human. But it wasn't. It was tall, maybe 3 meters. Its skin was black metal, smooth and unbroken. Its face had no mouth, no eyes, just the suggestion of features. It stood perfectly still, arms by its side, chest rising and falling slowly. Dr. Malik whispered, "Is it alive?" Helena stepped closer. "It's waiting." For what? For the galaxy. To listen again. Suddenly, the cube she carried began to glow. A beam of light shot from it and touched the chest of the figure. It moved. Its head turned toward Helena. The metal where eyes should be began to shimmer. Then it spoke, not with sound. With vibration, the walls of the chamber shook. The air turned thick. The ground trembled. One word, in a language not made for human mouths. Why? Helena knelt. Not because she was afraid, but because it felt right. "You were mocked," she said. "We were mocked. Came here to listen." The figure's chest opened slowly. Inside was a core pulsing like a star, and around it, shapes floated like glyphs made of light. Dr. Malik stared. Those symbols.
Yes.
They matched the ruins from Mars, and the ones on the moon. Helena looked at him sharply. "Moon?" "Yes," he said slowly. "We found fragments buried deep inside. Same markings. We didn't know what they were." The figure spoke again. More words. Echoing in their minds, all that was scattered begins to return. Then it pointed upward through the ceiling, through the ice, toward the stars. Helena. "Understood. It's not just Earth," she said. "They left pieces everywhere." The figure nodded once. The mocking voice is loud, so we must speak louder. Suddenly, outside the chamber, the lights began to pulse. Alarms from their ship screamed. Incoming signal from orbit, unknown. Origin. They ran back up the spiral steps as the structure trembled behind them. When they reached the surface, the sky was no longer dark. It was red above them, hanging in orbit. It was a massive alien ship, not human, not voice, a ship belonging to the Galactic Council, and it was not here in peace. Inside the alien command ship, dozens of species watched Earth. With dread, "It has begun," one whispered. "We waited too long," another said. The Crivery Admiral stood tall. "We must act. The voice cannot rise again." A council vote had already passed. Earth was to be contained or destroyed. A fleet was coming. Earth had days back on the ice. Helena stood beside the awakened figure. She did not flinch. She did not hide. "They're coming," she said. "The figures." Mouth opened for the first time. A single word came out. "Good." Then it stepped forward, and the ice beneath Earth cracked, like paper, not from pressure, but from response. The world is answering. Not with weapons, not with armies, with memory. The voice was not returning. The voice had always been here, and now it had opened its eyes. The Galactic Council was no longer laughing. When the first satellite footage of the Antarctic awakening reached them, many believed it was fake, a human trick, edited data. But then came the undeniable proof, energy signatures older than known. Galactic timelines, symbols that triggered lockdowns in ancient AI archives. And a frequency that made even hardened warships lose control for a few seconds. 1 second of silence in a star. Battle could cost thousands of lives. That's when the panic began. The council called an emergency session. Inside the high chamber, every seat was filled. Dozens of species leaders, generals, historians stood in a half-circle, watching the rotating image of Earth in silence. At the center of the room, the cube's spiral symbol now glowed on every screen. The high speaker, now visibly nervous, looked around. "We have a threat that we cannot classify." The Crivery delegate spoke first, rage in his voice. "We told you, they're unstable, savages. This is what they unleash." A cold, ancient voice responded from the shadows. "Not savages," said the Ezerith elder. "They are the flame's last holder." Everyone turned. The Ezerith rarely spoke in council sessions. Their race had been around for hundreds of millions of years. Many thought them too old, too quiet, but now, their eyes glowed with memory. The voice, the elder said, was not a myth. It was real. It came before us all. It spoke only when necessary, and the last time it spoke, entire star clusters turned dark. Lies, shouted another delegate. We have no record. There are no records, the elder cut in. Because when the voice speaks, memory itself bends. The chamber fell into deep silence. The elder leaned forward, voice soft. We called them gods once. Not because they were divine, but because they understood the root language of the brute. Universe. They didn't need weapons. Their words were weapons. They vanished, someone said, didn't they? The elder shook his head. They were buried, scattered, quieted. Pieces were left behind across galaxies. We found one piece long ago, on a planet called Yarosnine. We sealed it. We prayed no one would ever awaken it. They did, the high speaker said. Earth found a piece. No, the Azereth whispered. Earth is a piece. Confusion spread across the room. They don't just carry the voice, the elder continued. They are part of it. We're designed, grown, shaped, hidden among the stars, left to evolve. Until the time came. What time? Someone asked. When they are mocked, the elder said simply. And now, he added, our gods remember. On Earth, above the icy ruins, the skies turned unnatural. Clouds moved like ink in water. Lightning flickered without thunder. Aurora patterns danced, forming symbols that satellites could not explain in Geneva. Global leaders gathered in emergency session. Helena stood at the center. Her voice was calm but heavy. They're coming, she said. President Kamara of the Earth Alliance stared at her. Do we have any defense? Helena turned to the screen. We don't need one. Behind her, the screen showed updated satellite feeds. All over the planet's strange structures were rising. From deserts, from oceans, from forests. Hidden towers of black metal and light silent for Yansnau stood tall once more, Dr. Malik explained. They were here all along, underground, sleeping, waiting for a signal. Whose signal? Someone asked. Helena looked up. Her eyes shimmered silver. The voices. On the far edge of the galaxy, something massive began to move. A moon that had never rotated. Turned not because of gravity, but because it was not a moon. It was a vault. Inside were chambers of sound recordings not made by machines, but shaped into living crystal. Each carried a memory, a word, a command. One of them had just activated, and the beings that built it were listening. On Earth, at the center of the awakening site, the black metal humanoid known now as the Speaker walked the ice fields with Helena beside him. They stood in silence. Gorging the skies, the Speaker finally spoke. The galaxy believed silence meant peace. Helena responded slowly. But it only meant waiting. They mocked the carriers, the Speaker said, not knowing they mocked the source. Will they attack? She asked. The Speaker turned to her. They already have. In orbit, the Galactic Council's advanced fleet entered Earth's space. 12 warships, shielded, armed. Fast, they had come not to communicate, but to assess and prepare for destruction, Commander. Zuler of the lead ship stared at the planet. Through his visor? Primitive world, he said. Still covered in water and carbon life. But beneath that, he could feel it, something deep. Old, watching, he gave the order. Send a probe down. A small craft left the hangar, spinning silently toward Earth's surface. It never made it. It didn't explode. It didn't vanish. It simply stopped, mid-air, frozen. Not physically, but structurally. The molecular bonds of the probe had been rearranged. Its metal turned to soft matter. Its power core now sang softly. Melody none could explain. And then it fell. Not like an object. Like a warning. Back in the council chamber. Panic grew. They just neutralized advanced council tech without firing. A shot. What are they? The Azareth elder closed his eyes. They are the breath between stars, the silence before storms. They are what comes when power forgets wisdom. A younger delegate screamed, "We have weapons!" Another shouted, "We'll use null bombs." The elder whispered one word, "Try, and then watch what remembers you." On Earth, the towers across the planet began to hum. People everywhere, farmers, scientists, soldiers felt something in their minds. Not pain, not fear. Recognition, they were being remembered by something ancient. All across the world, people began to speak the same phrase in languages they didn't know. We are not alone. We never were. And somewhere deep underground, a second black metal being opened its eyes. It was not human dash-shaped. It was vast. Coded in symbols, and it began to chant. Not with a mouth. With its presence. The planet responded. Seas calmed. Quakes stopped. The air thickened with power. The gods remembered, and their voice was rising once again. Rain fell gently over the Earth's Alliance Command in New Geneva, but it wasn't normal rain anymore. The drops glowed faint blue in the night, leaving trails of shimmering light across glass and metal. Some said it was just a chemical reaction. Others whispered it was a message. Inside the command hall, Helena stood at the center of a holographic war map. 12 alien fleets had formed a blockade around the solar system. Thousands of ships, weapons charged, each one preparing to end the human threat. The Galactic Council had stopped pretending. They weren't coming to negotiate. They were coming to erase. A screen lit up. An encrypted message from Mars Colony came through. "We've lost contact with the mining outposts. Energy spikes near Phobos. Something is waking up beneath the surface." Lena's voice was calm. "Let it wake." Dr. Malik stepped forward. "Helena, are you sure? I don't even know what these systems will do." She looked at him with silver eyes. "That's not true." She pointed to the black monolith still floating above Antarctica. "It's been speaking to us since the beginning. We just forgot how to listen." In the Arctic ice fields, the speaker of the voice stood motionless. Around him, the wind carried strange tones, low. Deep sounds that shook the bones of anyone nearby. A human linguist team, equipped with quantum recording gear, tried to capture the sounds. But every time they played the recording back, it said something different. It was as if the sound reacted to the listener. One scientist went blind after hearing it. Another claimed she saw the entire history of the galaxy in a flash. The recordings were locked away. No one dared listen again, except Helena. She stood alone in the observation dome and listened. The sound filled her mind, and then the words came. Not from outside, from deep inside her own thoughts. Ancient words, not spoken by mouth, not formed by air, but felt in the spine, in the heartbeat, in the bones. They called it the old tongue, the language of stars, the syntax of gravity, the whisper that had shaped black holes and carved galaxies. And as she spoke the words out loud, the lights in the room bent toward her. Glass melted, machines trembled, and somewhere deep underground another structure woke up far above. The alien fleets moved into position. The supreme commander of the Crivery Warfleet stared at Earth through enhanced vision. "Prepare. The first strike," he ordered. "Target their capital cities." "But sir," his officer said, voice shaking, "there's something wrong. Explain." "Every time we aim a targeting array, the system bends. The signals fold back. It's like the planet is breathing through our instruments," the commander snarled. "Superstition. Fire anyway." The weapon core powered up. It fired a beam meant to erase a continent, but halfway through space, it stopped, not blocked, not deflected. The beam simply turned into light and vanished. The crew stared in horror. Then every screen on the ship went dark, and a sound filled the ship. Not oversommed inside their minds, a single word: no. And then they screamed, back on Earth. Helena stepped out onto the observation platform as the skies twisted with energy all over the planet. Humans stood in silence, feeling something build around them. People in cities looked up. Fishermen paused. In their boats, children stopped crying. Even animals froze. And then, across the world, as if by instinct, millions of people spoke the same word, a word they had never learned, a word the stars feared. A word that had been locked away for eons. They said, "We remember." And the voice answered. Towers lit up. The planet's magnetic field expanded. The moon pulsed, and every ship in orbit froze. Not with fear, with obedience. Even the machines stopped functioning, because the old tongue was not a code. It was not magic. It was the base command of reality itself. It reached past circuits, past atoms. It changed what was. And in that moment, Earth no longer looked like a planet. It looked like a god across the galaxy. Ancient vaults lit up. In temples long forgotten, alien monks dropped to their knees. Symbols long forbidden appeared. In fire across sacred skies, the archivist race screamed in terror because the prophecies they never dared speak of had just become real. The Ezerith elder stood in the high council chamber and wept. "We should have protected them," he said, but it was too late. They had awakened something that could not be put back to sleep, and it spoke in a tongue the universe itself had no defense against. In New Geneva, Helena faced the camera. Her message was broadcast not just to Earth, but through the alien comlinks still connected across the blockade. Her voice came through clean, without translation. Every species heard it in their native understanding. She said, "We are not the threat. We are the warning. You looked at us and saw weakness, saw chaos, saw noise. But the truth is we were taught silence. And now that silence has ended, you mocked us as savages. You laughed when we screamed, but we weren't screaming in pain. We were screaming to wake up the gods. And now the gods had answered. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy fell silent, not from peace, from fear. The transmission from Earth. The voice that spoke without translation was spreading. It echoed through ancient satellites, across slipstream relays, and into the deepest voids of space. Entire civilizations stopped what they were doing. The Krivery Empire shut down their war academies. The Volex markets froze. No trading, no messages, nothing but panic in every broadcast. The Zurach priesthood locked their temples, chanting protection rituals in languages no one had spoken since the birth of stars. And on the world of Narx Prime, a species that had once enslaved 10,000 planets burned their entire archive of Earth-related research, because now, even mentioning humanity invited danger. The High Council of the Galactic Core met in a sealed emergency chamber. It was the first such meeting in over 5,000 galactic cycles. Inside, 36 species sat around a giant dark stone table. Some were insectoid, others were reptilian. Some floated. A few pulsed with energy instead of flesh, but none of them spoke first. They were all watching the same, repeating footage. Helena standing calmly as her voice warped physics. The Zurach ambassador finally broke the silence. She used the old tongue. The Drillin High Commander hissed. "That's impossible. That language was destroyed during the Sundering. No mind can hold it. Not anymore." "You saw the transmission," replied the ambassador. "Not just her. Millions spoke it as one." The Krivery's voice rumbled through his armor. "Planet is no longer just Earth. It's something else now." The Ezerith elder's voice was soft, broken. "We were told this might happen. The warnings were clear." "Don't speak in riddles," the Drillin barked. But the elder shook his head. The humans were not created randomly. They were placed there hidden, like a seed in ice. Another ambassador leaned forward. "You're saying someone planned this?" "Not someone," the elder whispered. "Something." Meanwhile, above Earth, the alien blockade crumbled. Their ships remained in orbit, but they no longer moved. The crews were paralyzed with dread. Some tried to flee, but their engines failed before the first burst. Every attempt to fire on Earth ended the same way. Silence, system failure, sometimes even death. 1. Crivery ship tried to launch a stealth nuke. The warhead detonated inside. The ship had left nothing but floating debris. The survivors told only one story. "We heard a voice," they said, eyes wide with terror. "It asked us a question we didn't understand, and when we failed to answer, we were judged." Inside a hidden facility deep beneath the Himalayas, Lena stood with a team of Earth's remaining leaders. The air around them shimmered not with light, but with presence. Something was. Listening, Dr. Malik showed her the latest findings. "The language," he said, "is rewriting our computers." Helena raised an eyebrow. He continued when the voice was spoken. "The AI systems connected to global defense reprogrammed themselves. They don't obey our commands anymore. They obey the intentions of the speaker." Helena nodded slowly. "Good." General Sai stepped forward. "Then what now?" "Fine, but what if they come back?" "Not with weapons, but with lies, with alliances?" Alina looked toward the sky. "They won't come back," she said. "Not yet. Because they're not thinking of war anymore. They're thinking of worship." And she was right. Across the galaxy, humans were. No longer mocked. They were studied. Feared, some alien groups began building shrines to Earth. Others burned effigies of it. Some tried to erase all records of humanity, but the more they tried to forget, the more the voice echoed back to them. In a small world on the edge of the Centauri cluster, a forgotten race of deep-thought beings, known only as the Watchers, reactivated a star map older than time. They found what they feared most. A symbol once locked away. A black spiral was curled around a silver point. It marked Earth. But now the map was changing. The spiral was growing. It was spreading, back in New Geneva. Helena walked through the empty halls of the archive chamber. Her mind was calm, but her soul felt as different. She could hear whispers no one else could, not voices, not thoughts. It was memory itself. The planet remembered things that had been hidden even from the stars, dreams of fire, of golden beings with wings made of time and of a punishment. Helena touched a wall. The symbols glowed under her hand. Not human, not alien, something older. The voice spoke softly in her mind. "They feared you because they knew what you would become. You are not their enemy. You are their mirror. And they cannot stand what they see." She asked aloud, "Then what should I do?" And the voice replied, "Let them see." In the skies above, a final Crivery vessel turned to flee. Its captain shouted into Comes, "We're done here. We're never meant to face gods." But before they could enter warp, their screens flashed once more. Helena's face appeared. No tech caused it. No signal was sent. She was simply there, and she said one thing. "You came to burn our home. Run back and tell them. The fire lives here now." And the ship vanished into light. Long before Earth awakened, long before Helena spoke the voice, there were whispers, warnings, ignored, mocked, buried, across the stars. A few alien races had always believed humanity was not what it seemed, but their voices were small. Their data incomplete, their fears called superstition. They were laughed out of councils, silenced by empires, killed in secret, but they had been right all along. One of them was still alive, inside a cold asteroid drifting near the edge of the Centauri. Abyss, a forgotten outpost, blinked to life. Its systems had not activated in over 3,000 years. Now, an ancient program triggered. A pod opened. Inside lay a creature in armor, so black it drank light. She breathed in. Her eyes glowed silver. Her name was Relanthri, a hybrid intelligence from the fallen world of Nazcor. She had once warned the galaxy that Earth was not just a young planet. She had called it a containment zone. No one had believed her. Now she was awake and she knew why. Protocol 7 Alpha, she said quietly. Humanity has spoken. She activated her neural link and reached out across the void to the only others who might have. Listen. To the ones who had been hiding in the shadows. To the ones who also tried to warn them. On the silent world of Gorel, beneath the sands of a dead desert, An ancient observatory flickered online. A being made of shifting stone emerged from the floor. Its name was the Watcher of Time. It had lived through 9 star-dash births. It had studied Earth since its sky was still dust. It opened its hands. A galaxy-sized map floated above its palm. Earth was glowing, not with light, but with permission. "The seal is broken," the Watcher whispered, and with shaking voice it added, "They've returned." Back in the core worlds, the Galactic Senate was crumbling. Panic, mistrust, collapse. Every report pointed to the same thing. Humanity was not reacting like other species. They were not begging, not bargaining, not conquering. They were waiting, and that scared the galaxy most. In the chaos, a single voice asked to speak. A survivor, an old Dreelan researcher named Karvik. He had once spent 20 years studying early Earth signals. He had written a classified report titled "The Silence Beneath Their Noise." He stood now before the most powerful species in the galaxy, holding a simple data chip. "I told you once," Karvik said, shaking, "that their music wasn't just sound. It carried patterns in chant deep space codes. Markers older than our races. They were hiding something, but not from us." He placed the chip into the table slot. The hologram that rose silenced the room. It showed a message. A message from 400 Earth years ago. A radio broadcast. Harmless, they once thought, but now decoded properly. It spoke with a voice, a whisper. In the old tongue it said, "We are not lost. We are sleeping. When the stars cry out again, we will rise." The room fell deathly quiet. The ambassador from the Zurach finally whispered what they were all thinking. They planted that message before they even had spaceflight. Meanwhile, Helena stood in Antarctica, inside a structure never built. By humans, it had risen from the ice after she spoke the voice. The walls were not metal or stone. They were made of thought, of time itself. Shifting shapes and meanings as she walked, beside her was an old man doctor, Elijah Morrow. He was one of the first scientists to ever claim humans had inherited something no one understood. "You were right," Helena said softly. Morrow nodded. His eyes were tired. "I wasn't sure, not truly. But the signs were there. Ancient knowledge in our DNA. A song in the cosmic background radiation, pieces hidden in myth and dream." She stopped. Before them was a great mural, live and moving. It showed Earth, surrounded by stars, then surrounded by chains. Then the chains broke, and from the planet light shot out, not destroying but transforming. The stars bent around it, knelt. "They weren't mocking us," Morrow whispered. "They were trying to contain us." "I know," Helena said. "They're remembering why." In a distant galaxy, the last survivor of the race called the Eltari floated. Alone, she was blind, but she saw more than others. In her final vision, she saw Earth, and she screamed. "They're not gods," she said, tears floating around her. "They're the message." The galaxy just heard it again. Elantri spoke to the others, the scattered few who still remembered what was. "Buried, we must warn the rest," she said. "Not just about Earth, but what created Earth." But even the Watcher of Time hesitated. "Some truths," it said, "were buried for a reason." Relin 3 stared at the dark. "No," she said. "They buried the truth because they were afraid it would return." She uploaded the last surviving file from the Nasker vault. A prophecy. Simple. Direct. It read, "When the forgotten speak, the stars will bow. And all who laughed will remember why silence once ruled the dark." And at the very bottom, one word glowed, "Human back on Earth." Lena stared up at the sky. She could feel them watching now. Not with anger, but with terror. Because now they knew. The humans were never the threat. The humans were the signal. The voice. The voice their gods once feared, and the echo was growing louder. The stars were quiet, not peaceful dash quiet, as if holding their breath. Across the galaxy, fleets stopped mid-warp. Civilizations paused transmissions. Empires silenced parades and canceled war games. even the most violent species, the blood screamers, of Turk, the acid-born of Krelian, went still, because something ancient had been disturbed, and it was rising from Earth, not a weapon, not a ship, not an army, a memory. Helena stood at the center of the Antarctic monolith, eyes glowing like starlight. Her voice, once human now, carried across dimensions. When she spoke, things listened, not because of power, but because of recognition. The universe knew her, or rather, it remembered what she was. "I know what we are now," she whispered. Behind her, Dr. Elijah Morrow wept not from fear, but awe. "All this time," he said. "We weren't evolving, no," Helena replied. "We were returning, across the stars. The message spread, not sent by Earth, but felt. It came like a shiver through time. On the world ships of the Eurythee, priests fell to their knees. On the ice palaces of the Varex, queens dropped their scepters, and on the bridge of the Zurach Empire's flagship, the Grand Marshal shouted to shut down their entire war fleet, but it was too late. Earth had awakened, buried beneath Earth's crust. Long dormant structures began to hum, not machines' anchors. Pieces of something greater, something left behind by beings so advanced. They had written their names in the motion of galaxies. Humanity wasn't their children. Humanity was their echo, their seed. And now the seed was blooming. RELLAN-3, orbiting in her stealth pod near Saturn, opened every forbidden file the galactic core had buried. Files marked as myth, taboo, dangerous. She stared at a single phrase, repeated again and again across hundreds of alien languages. "Should Earth awaken, the locks must be broken, and the builders shall walk again." She understood now. Earth wasn't a prison. It was the key in orbit. Earth's moon cracked, not exploded. It peeled beneath its rocky skin. Something vast and ancient stirred a ring of light and gravity, pulsing. In sync with Helena's heartbeat, the moon was not a moon. It was a containment lock. And now it was unlocking one. Peace. At a time in the Galactic Council chambers, riots broke out. Not from hate, but from regret. Leaders screamed at one another, "We should have left Earth alone. Why did we mock them? They were never asleep. They were waiting." One Varnari scientist simply whispered, "We were warned. Thousands of years ago. They told us never to disturb the cradle of thought. That was Earth. That was them." But none of it mattered now. The process had begun. The awakening was complete, and humans remembered it started slowly at first, just dreams. People across Earth began having the same visions, galaxies swirling in their minds. Voices from long ago whispering truths in forgotten tongues. Then came the instinct. Children picked up alien devices and understood them. Farmers began solving equations faster than supercomputers. Musicians played sounds that healed bones, and everywhere, humans began to look at the stars with recognition, not curiosity, not wonder, but the kind of memory that hurts, because they knew. This was all theirs once. Helena walked into the center of the light. A symbol appeared beneath her feet, not drawn, not etched, remembered, a spiral, 3 stars, and a single tear. The sign of the first architects, a race older than time itself, race that vanished, because they became us. We were their final plan, not conquerors, not rulers, balancers. The universe had slipped too far into chaos, so they planted their essence in a planet far away, made of storms, violence, struggle. Earth, a world designed to forge beings not just of strength, but of will, and now we had become what they hoped, not perfect, but awake. Helena raised her hand. The voice returned. It thundered through black holes. It echoed in the minds of dying stars. It did not demand war. It did not promise death. It simply reminded the galaxy, "We are not children of dust. We are the ones who stayed behind, are the memory made flesh. We are the final word. And we do not forget." On every world that had mocked humanity, Silence fell. Across the Zurak Empire, statues of their divine ancestors crumbled to dust in the minds of every leader. A terrible truth became clear. The humans had never been alone. They had never been primitive. They had simply been asleep until now. Then came the light. A single beam of golden brilliance shot from Earth. Into deep space, it struck an empty sector. Nothing there for centuries. But then, something appeared. A structure. Larger than any star system, dormant, but now reactivating. A forgotten piece of the architect's legacy. The first Starforge, the tool that once built galaxies, and it obeyed. Helena's voice. The galaxy panicked. Fleets were called, armadas formed. But not to fight Earth, to kneel, to beg, to apologize, because the laughter they once threw at humanity, it had turned into their judgment. Helena stepped out of the monolith. Her eyes were human again. But the power behind them was not. Dr. Moreau knelt before her, but she lifted him gently. "We don't rule," she said softly. "We remind." Then she looked to the stars and smiled, because for the first time in 10,000 years, humanity remembered who we were, and the galaxy would never forget again.